Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to the From Desk to Dynasty podcast. Sitting down with a super exciting guest here, my friend Justin. Excited to learn all about his experiences, his insights, and what he's currently got going on now. So, Justin, I'll pass it across to yourself for a quick introduction.
Yeah, so I'm Justin. I'm a recent graduate from UCF, working on a startup called Hirematch AI. And essentially, what we're trying to do is we're trying to fix the hiring process because a lot of these companies are moving away from traditional methods like reading resumes. They're going more towards the reference based of internal employees. And we believe that we can fix the system. The main issue right now is obviously, AI has done a lot of great for the good of the world, but it's also caused a lot of issues and headaches, like fake applicants, a lot of just applicants in general that didn't actually apply. They applied through another software that launched it to thousands of different ones. And essentially, what we're trying to do is we're just trying to land the right fits at the right places, so there's more continuity in the workforce.
Amazing. Definitely building something super interesting and something I believe is gonna, disrupt an old school space and really make some good in it as well. Obviously, a recent graduate, Justin. Could you maybe share us a little bit about your journey that led you towards the recruitment industry and trying to fix some of the problems there?
Yeah, sure. So I actually started in university this issue. I led a professional development organization at the school, and essentially it was a branch of my engineering college. It was created to help give engineers more or better soft skills and communication skills. And one of the metrics that I was judged by was the percentage of our members that had internships. So initially we started with I think around like 20 to 25. It was around COVID, and around 10 of them had internships, but they were all seniors. And then over the course of the next 2 years, we grew to around 75 members, and we landed over around just under 60 internships for them all, and most of them were freshmen. And that was mostly because I got really frustrated because a lot of these kids would have all the skills, they had all the projects. It's just that they wouldn't. It's hard to cater to an ATS when you don't know how the underworkings are, working. So I would create accounts on like Workday, create accounts on Greenhouse, Yellow, all these different ATSs to kind of get a better feel for what makes these candidates actually stand out. Because obviously mentioning them once wasn't enough. So some of them you would need to mention a skill 5 times, some of them three, and you could say that you were working on this particular, I don't know, software 5 years in a row every day. If you only mention it once, you'd only get 1 star. So they weren't very good at contextualizing. And then, since GPT's come out, there's a lot of wrappers, which are essentially apps that use GPT to perform most of their functions, that don't really do a good job in regards to like getting that like more context. As we've seen with like pretty much any technology, an example of this could be like going to a play. First it was just a script, it's writing. Then you have like an actual play, actors performing it. It's the same content, but in a different medium. From here you get like photos, you get videos. Now we have like fully immersive environments, right? So at the end of the day, experiences are what counts. It's just you need more. You need to get more out of it. So resumes are a great place to start. However, if you have an experience from like 3 years ago that has five of the key core skills we're looking for, you need to know if they've been using them since, if they've used it prior, and if they've even used it in the first place. So at the end of the day, we think that the system isn't necessarily broken. It's just we're very limited in the amount of information we're able to get with current ATSs. That's kind of our logic.
Interesting. It's super interesting. It's something that I guess didn't know. It's like you could have a dazzling resume, you're the perfect candidate, but if you've not followed the done thing or what's the supposed to be done thing, you could easily just slip through the cracks.
Yeah, it's very easy. You
Yeah,
can
it's
you can
crazy.
literally match their criteria perfectly, And another thing is references now. A lot of these bigger companies are moving away from these kind of filters. We're trying to fix that. We don't believe there's anything inherently wrong with these filters. It's just, the way they're going about getting their information is just, it's very static. We believe that we can be a proactive tool that you can, kind of add on to these filters. Like, great, we have these resumes, just answer these questions that we have to, like, cut out that guesswork. And it goes both ways too, because companies aren't very transparent with, their cultures, the team they'll be working with. A lot of them outsource to, recruiters that aren't necessarily part of the actual company, which also hurts turnover if that's a metric you track. Which, oddly enough, a lot of these companies don't really like, they track it for quarterly reports. Like, it looks nice if it's low, but they really look for time to hire, like filling those gaps. But like I said, that's very static. You could hire anyone like that. It doesn't really matter if they're not a good fit, because you're going to keep having that issue down the road. You're kicking the can down the road. That's how we view it.
Exactly. Exactly, yeah. And you get a quick hire and then you maybe don't report your turnover statistics. It does just sort of get lost in the weeds of everything. Interesting. But yeah, obviously, the vision came about while in college, heading up the professional development group. I guess that sort of created the original vision. But how has this really evolved over time, as you've continued to work within the space and I'm sure pick up lots of bits and pieces?
Yeah, so this all started before GPT came out. So initially, we wanted to basically stop punishing people for having very similar skills, right? Because a lot of these entry level positions, they're not going in with expert level knowledge on anything. At least it's not assumed. So if you know a programming language that's very similar to another, you would get 0 points, right? Or it doesn't even have to be programming; it could be software. So like if you have uh, you're working with a company with the Google Workspace suite, um, and you have like, I don't know, you're certified in Excel, you have years of experience with it. It's like very similar functionality, and you would just get people get totally ignored for that. So that's where it started. Similar skills. The big issue in engineering was with all the CAD softwares, um, which is computer aided design. That's like 3D models of things. Designs. They're all very similar, and if you had 5 years of experience with one, it would count as zero for another. So we wanted to find a way to like kind of weight those similarly. And then GPT made things a lot easier because it had reference of a lot of these technologies already, because it's trained on scraped data from the internet. Um, these companies like Lockheed, like Boeing, using all these CAD softwares. These CAD softwares are established, so it's pretty easy to find that pain point. But then you kind of got to go beyond that. Like I said, with the context, you have to figure out not only how long they've had this skill, but if they've been using it consistently to that point, or if they just they happened to use it once and it was just like
100%.
a yeah.
100%. Yeah, it's super interesting and definitely, AI and GPT. I mean, it's made a lot of people's lives easier. Who knows the extent to which people really get the top benefits from it. I think it's definitely still pretty slept on within the space. But, in those early days, maybe pre-GPT even, like what were the biggest challenges you faced? Was it sort of, trying to understand those CAD systems that were out there and everything like that, or was it something else?
Yeah, so a lot of these hiring managers didn't actually work with the CAD software. They were just familiar with how to use it. Um, so I've had a lot of experience with CAD software going into college. So I had like a certification in SolidWorks, Mastercam, all these different ones. And we had to use Onshape freshman year, which is also very similar. It wasn't necessarily the software that was the issue and like assessing their skills, because the certifications kind of do that already. Um, like the main issue we had was like just people trying to game in general. Like this was before GPT. Like people are getting very clever. Like they would take complete job posting descriptions, make the font size like point 0.1, put it in like the header or the footer, make it all white so you're 100% match right off the bat. That was an instance that I think it was Boeing that told us about. Like Amazon had a huge issue with that. Another one was, what I was teaching everyone to get seen was to like mention all these 3 times, even if it doesn't really like, even if it's redundant, it doesn't matter. Like you want to
Yeah.
get to human eyes. That's the main goal. Less than I think it was 3% of all these resumes actually make human contact.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, and like I think it's only like an order of magnitude less than that get interviewed on average. So
That's crazy.
yeah, no, like on average, it costs companies hundreds of thousands of hours just sifting through resumes. Um, and like our logic was, imagine if they didn't have to do that, they had like the cream of the crop right off the bat.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
that opens up a lot more time, and like the interviewing too, that takes a while. And that's another issue is because all these fake applicants, like you send out these interview requests, it takes days off because a lot of them do the interviews back to back to back. So that like adds weeks to the time to fill, which hurts them in the long run. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of our standpoint.
100%. I think as humans, we're always going to try and, cheat a system or game a system in any way
Yeah,
possible.
I mean,
100%.
I don't blame the applicants at all. I mean, it's kind
Yeah.
of you're using software to rank candidates right off the bat. It kind of evens the playing field. Companies don't view it that way, but it just means you got to innovate. It just means you got to, that's just how anything develops. You
100%.
gotta come up with defenses for these systems. That's why like it's so important to repeat these skill sets right now, or like these experiences, these keywords. But taking that a step further, yeah, I mean, you can't cheat context. A lot of these softwares are making it easier to verify skills, degrees, which was a huge one after COVID. People were lying about where they went to university. There's like a lot of videos on like different companies that are no longer that were private that you can like lie about that you said you worked at. Like Twitter was a big one, and there's just like no proof. Like you can't prove it, or you can't disprove it either.
And I guess that's why you need to, as you're doing, is like place a lot of the emphasis on that referral side of things as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
100%. 100%. But yeah, Justin, clearly building something super interesting. Um, that's definitely going to, change the space and change how, candidates are viewed in the space. 100%. And I'm always fascinated, especially younger entrepreneurs, because, you're freshly graduated, but you have been working on this a while. Always interested to see how you guys are looking towards the future. So, like, looking ahead, over the next 12 to 24 months, what are the biggest growth priorities for you in the business?
For us, so our moat right now is our analytics. My co-founder is currently finishing up her master's at Georgia Tech, focusing on that. So being able to not only extract that data, but make it digestible for the average person, because we understand we're like these hiring managers are not, they're not getting their masters in data at the end of the day. They're not going to be able to speak the same lingo. We're trying to make it as like I said, digestible and useful as possible. Because something we have is we basically have a correlation map, which kind of like the more pale the square is, because it's a square with like a bunch of squares inside it, depending on how many qualifications you have. Basically, the more pale it is, the more unrelated these skills are, and basically you need to go back and fix what you're looking for because it's either a problem with your pipeline or it's unrealistic to have all these different types of skills. Because usually for a job posting, you'll see like a bunch of related, but for like say a full stack developer, it may be very different. That means you have to work with the visuals and you have to work with the functionality. Today, it's a lot easier than it was in the past, but or like a project manager, right? If you're leading a technical project, you want some technical experience. However, a lot of these project managers like don't have those particular skills you're looking for. However, they would, fare pretty well because it's related to what they've done. We want to be able to make those connections easier. But yeah, going back to the point, we're trying to make this data more digestible. We have the models up and running. We're going to have explainer videos for each of these different dashboards, each of these different suites, and We're one of the only companies that allows you to go back and like actually fix what you're looking for and like maybe become more realistic, right? If you have like a 10 out of 10 score for your posting, that doesn't mean that you made a good posting. That means everyone had what you were looking for. That means you need to be more specific. The lower score you are, the closer you are to zero, that means the more broad you need to be because there is little to no overlap between what you're asking for. So not only does this give these companies a better insight into their pipeline and who, the talent they're attracting, but it also gives them a sense of, okay, well, does this team really know what, or does this hiring manager really know what's best for the team? Because like we can't find anyone out there with these skills, and it's not something you can upskill, right? When you're hiring a project manager, typically they have something you're looking for, and a lot of the times like these bureaucratic companies don't necessarily they're not the best with knowing what they're looking for. But we make it a lot easier on them. That's the goal.
100%. No, I like it. And just to touch upon the scoring system, like, if I'm just, playing dumb here, obviously 10, you know, you're too broad, everyone matches, zero, one, you're not broad enough. Is five like prime zone where people want to be, or is it really dependent on role?
Yeah, you want to be anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5. It will depend on the role. The entry level postings are going to be more towards that 10 out of 10, just because you're looking for coachability. That's the undertones you're looking for. You're not looking for experts, and if they claim to be an expert, you probably don't want them. You want people that are willing to grow with you, willing to, when they're done with college, like start right away, get into the system, and build their career in your company. That's what you want, and that's something we've seen with a lot of these companies recently. They're replacing a lot of these entry level jobs with automations, which is not a good thing because long run, like that's great right now. Quarterly reports are going to look great. The CEO is going to look great. The shareholders are going to be happy, but long term, like you're losing. Like I hate to say it, like I know it sounds corny, but you're losing that culture. You're going to have to outsource eventually because if you're not developing talent, you're going to, basically be poaching them from someone else. And you're going to have a lot of that company's characteristics embedded into yours. So yeah, I mean, like obviously right now it is making companies more profitable, but long run it's not good for basically raising your own executives. If you like really value hiring in house, like if there is mobility, because mobility is becoming more and more rare right now.
100%. No, it's a really, really interesting to hear, to be honest. I think people see AI and they wonder how they can implement it in their business, but at the same time, these people are in the relationship business. Like you're trying to build a culture, you're trying to build, a team of people that are there for the long term. And yeah, by completely removing that, you do sort of shoot yourself in the foot long term. But yeah, I mean, in terms of as you've sort of grown the business and going through this journey, you know, if there was one thing that you could fix or improve at the snap of a finger, and that would have the biggest impact on your firm's growth, what do you think that would be, Justin?
Like, oh, sorry, the website's being weird. Am
You're
I
good.
here? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I
Uh,
got you.
what's one thing I could make happen like right away?
Yeah,
Um,
like if you could fix it, it would really help you out.
yeah,
Fix it
I
or
would.
improve it.
Yeah, definitely it would be making the data more digestible. Like if we could just, yeah, I'd say a neural network would definitely help with that. We're working on a neural network to optimize postings. Obviously, applicants want to see how much you're going to be making. They want transparency. They want to know. Another thing that companies like that's not common for companies to do is explain why that role is open in the first place. If we can make one thing happen, it would probably be to see what matters most for each candidate individually. Like, you deliver like these three specs right off the bat. Like, I understand like the candidates would probably have to input what's important to them like separately, and they would have to have the same account for every posting, which is fine. But um, yeah, I mean, like everyone values different things. Like a lot of people right now, remote work is, if you can get a remote job, that's very rare right now compared to how it was in COVID. I think it's like around, it fell like 90%, I think. But that's still something very important to people. Or hybrid work. Hybrid work is becoming, the norm. Some companies are doing 4-day weeks. That's another preference that we've seen. But yeah, going back to that mobility thing, that's something that no one's really talking about right now. It's going to make it very hard to get a job in the future because they're going to have all these expectations. These companies are going to have all these expectations, and if everybody replaces their entry level, then you're
Yeah,
kind of just going to be hiring the same people. Yeah.
100%, 100%. And still on that sort of growth question, I know there's many different channels that can be leveraged. Without going too into too much detail on, your specific go-to-market strategy, what is, the main channel we're looking for? Is it all across the board, networking events, outbound referrals, everything, or what's the main focus?
Yeah. So for client acquisition, it's pretty much just outbound, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's cold email. Um, that's the most direct contact you can have. And, if you have like certain tools available that let you see their tech stack, let you see their experiences with ATSs, that goes a long way. Because if you've never worked with an ATS before, like this is not a normal ATS. Like this is like, a combination of a lot of different tools. Um, I know a lot of people are starting to think that ATSs are turning into CRMs, but ATSs were around before CRMs. Um, and yeah, I mean, we apply some of that logic to that dashboard, but in regards to, uh, I don't know. Yeah, no, definitely just cold email on LinkedIn for now.
Yeah, it's always going to be king. Like, put the feelers out, as you said, the most direct methods. Um, with it as well, I think you can get a pretty quick feedback loop. Just with constant testing of your messaging, of how you're reaching out. So yeah, I think it's a good strategy.
Yeah,
But
it's all
yeah,
reliable.
yeah, I know. Literally, it's been done to death, and it will continue to be done to death. But it's it's a numbers game. But yeah, are there any strategies that you've tried maybe in the last year or so that you found interesting, even if they didn't quite, turn out the way you'd planned?
Yeah, so we got very fortunate with starting with LinkedIn. That is what we're going to continue to build on. We found out that like building community pages is a lot hard, or company pages is a lot harder than growing your individual accounts. So that's kind of what me and my co-founder have been trying to do is build our own individuals. She's been a little busy with college up until this point, but yeah, I mean we've found like exponential growth, and we have a lot of beta testers, which is awesome. There's a lot of early interest just through DMs alone. But yeah, that's how we're building legitimacy right now. Because initially we tried doing like articles like twice, 3 times a week sometimes, and it's just like to build credibility, and it eats way too much time. Like obviously now
Yeah,
you have the tools with AI, but um, yeah, I mean blog posts maybe in time we'll go back to that just to help with SEO for inbound, but yeah, as of now, we're just growing our individual accounts and um, basically the company's growing with us. Not at the same rate, but yeah, I think we have over 1,000 finally on LinkedIn for the company.
nice.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I I was like growing my individual, I'd say after we stopped with the company, and I'm at like 5K now. So, like I said, organic growth is a lot easier on your individual. It's basically a landing page for your company. So,
Yeah, 100%. And I say it to all of my clients. It's like, how can you make like organic into an actual funnel? And as you say, it's just consistency. It's just keeping up with it and providing relevant information as well. 100%. But yeah, Justin, if you could, if you could test one idea in your business with completely no risk whatsoever, what would you love to try?
Well, I would love to send out thousands of emails a week if we could, but we don't have the manpower for that yet. We are like, hypothetically it does work. Like we do have the infrastructure to scale. It's just taking all those calls would be like nearly impossible. Um, but yeah, I mean, I would love to grow as soon as possible. Yeah, I really wish we could do that.
For
I
sure.
think we
I
have a
mean,
good method for getting leads, and like we know the certain variables we're looking for. But yeah, just gotta grow it out.
100%. It's a time game, my friend. That's I mean you do all the right things, it generally compounds. So yeah, I've got full faith. But yeah, sort of coming to a bit of a wrap up now, Justin, in terms of like your journey so far, super interesting started in college with the professional development group and now making that journey as a founder. What really has been, the most rewarding part of your journey up until this point?
Uh, yeah, I'd say it's that I feel like if I was to land a job, so I was a photonics engineer. That's what I went to school for. For those of you who don't know, that's basically a specialization of electrical engineering, but you're dealing more with light and sensors than like actual electrical components. Like your final year, pretty much. Like the first 3 years are the same, um, but hmm, I forgot. I forgot what I was gonna say.
It's
Can
all
you repeat
good.
the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all. It's in terms of like your journey throughout this, whether it be, in college when you were with the group,
Oh
helping
yeah, okay, I know what I was
whoever,
gonna say.
like,
I was gonna
yeah,
say if I landed an engineering position, I don't think I'd have the balls to actually start a company. And I think that's like something hard. Like if you don't start a company right out of college and you like work, you have a high paying job, it becomes a lot riskier in your mind because you're not going from like making $0 to making $0. You're going from making like anywhere from like 60 to 100K, like usually on average, to $0. And that scares the crap out of people, and that will prevent a lot of people from chasing their dreams. You can't think of that. I think I would have had that mindset though. It's a lot easier said than done when you don't have a job. So much respect to you. Uh,
thank you.
a lot of my entrepreneurship friends who got jobs, like they're still at their jobs, um, or they're like in research now. So yeah, I mean, the sooner you start, the better off you'll be. This is like the least risk you'll have. Because come time you have to, look after a family. You have like more expenses, like a mortgage to pay off. That then there's like actual risk. You can always get a part-time job. You can always like work at a coffee shop if you need. I have one lined up in case. But but yeah, I mean that's it's like very low risk right now for me, and that's what gave me the courage to start.
100%. I love it. I couldn't agree more. It's like if you don't have any commitments, if you're not tied down to any specific location or anybody or anything, um, yeah, I think why not? I'm a big believer in, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So just got to take that jump and a lot of praying, and hopefully it will work out. But yeah, Justin, I appreciate you're still, in the early stages of your journey, just with recently graduating. But if you could give yourself one piece of advice, before jumping into the business and really taking things full time, what would that piece of advice be?
I would say to just look around. Um, like I got this really good piece of advice from one of my mentors in entrepreneurship. It was like there's this exercise where he makes us write down like every little frustration throughout the day. Like for me, a lot. I live in Orlando, Florida, so a lot of it was traffic related, like parking, driving, lights. It's ridiculous, but my job at the time was like I didn't get paid for it, but part of that organization, that leadership organization, and it was having to like help people with the same issues for the same applications, and early on knowing that they're probably not even going to get a look because you know nepotism. Like everyone blames nepotism, which it is an issue, but at the end of the day, you want to get your resume in front of human eyes, right? And whether that's like somehow getting a paper resume onto that hiring manager's desk, or whether that's gaming the system, you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, I would say to just like stop, look around. I'm sure I would have found other issues. Obviously, to most people, hiring isn't exciting, but because it started as a frustration, that is all the motivation I needed.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, just stop, look around. I'm sure you'd find other issues and other ventures. But yeah, I'm happy where I am now. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
100%. I love to hear it, my friends. I love to hear it. And I think, yeah, your journey's interesting because you've been through the process of hiring, through other people so many times. So yeah, just super, super well qualified in the nuances of it and how to really, you know, get results essentially. But yeah, I mean, Justin, as I say, just wrapping up, you know, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Really appreciate it. Where can people find you? Where can people find the business, your co-founder,
Yeah.
anything like that?
Thanks for having me first off. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Justin Press. Hirematch AI. Um, Emphasis on the AI. If you look up hirematch.com, it's not us. Hirematch.ai is our website. And yeah, we're right now we're just working with a ton of beta users, a ton of companies, and we should launch sometime in July this year. But yeah, you can find my co-founder on our LinkedIn as well. Her name is Hannah Quintal, and yeah,
Well, everyone go and blow Justin's inbox up, annoy him, keep him busy. But no, Justin, just finally again, thank you so much for coming on, my friend. Really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll stay in contact.
thanks for having me on. Take care.
Thank you.